Okay, everyone. Sorry, that was a very, very short break. Okay, so I'm going to, in this recording, I'm going to talk to you guys about your take-home test, and it's for 60 marks. It's available on your student portal. So that is due first, and that's due next week already. Okay, it's 60 marks. I'm going to guide you guys through it. You also have to reference, so I have to talk to you guys about your referencing as well. Okay, so let's first quickly talk about the test. Okay, so you will see that it is for 60 marks. Please read through the front page of it. On the next page, you guys are going to see a marking rubric. Okay, if you read through it once, then you understand what it's going to be for, your other assessments for the subject as well, for your assignment and for your open book exam. Okay. Try to stick to it. I am honest with you, and I know I'm being recorded. I want you guys to get to the answer. I want to see that you understand the theory, and I want to see that you can apply your mind. Okay. If you have a technical error, like you don't put a punctuation mark, if you have a heading that's in bold and all of a sudden your other headings are not in bold, I will show this out to you guys, but I'm not going to penalize you for it, okay? But if I can see blatantly that you did this 2 hours before the due moment, don't be nasty, because then I have to be nasty, and I don't like to be nasty. I was a lawyer, I was in practice, I was nasty in my life. I don't like it. I don't want to do it again, okay? So try to really stick to technical things, as in try to make everything look the same. Please do not put in pictures, because you're wasting precious time. Okay, I love pretty pictures, and I love pretty flowers, and I love whiskey, but that's not the point of your assignment. You don't have to make it look pretty. I need to know who you are, though. Okay, I need to know that you are frikkie van 'n vyver, and this is your student number, and I need to know this is your test, and I need to know your subject, your program, your student number, and I need to know which assessment this is. Can you please put this on every page? Because if a page is missing, then I can see, whoops, so page 3 of 5 is missing. And if I get a page somewhere, then I know whose page this is. Okay. So there's a reason why you will have this referencing rubric in all of your assessments. The IIE enforces ethical things like referencing. You have to reference. And you cannot think that if you reference just one footnote, don't freak out if you don't know what footnotes are. I will talk to you about it after this assessment. Don't think that one footnote is a note for a whole page is enough. You have to reference wherever you get an answer. I've already had some students asking me, do I really have to, if I write down true and give a reason, footnote it where I get it? Yes, because you have to get the answer somewhere in your textbook, and hopefully it is structured in such a way that you have to go on different pages in your textbook. Okay. You must have a bibliography. If you don't have a bibliography, you're going to get a pretty letter that says you are a level 1 or a level 2 plagiarism student. This goes on your academic record. So if you guys ask for a character reference, we go and check your academic record, and we say that you are a level 1 or a level 2 plagiarism student. Okay, and I know that you guys cannot afford anything in your profession to have anything on your academic records, so just freaking reference. If you do not know how to do it, if you are struggling with it, okay, email me. I will Zoom and I will show you. My junior lecturer, Irvin, can help you. My right-hand full-time lecturer, Damien, can also help you. In actual fact, it's him and I who drafted this law referencing guide that you guys must use for this specific subject. Okay, so we know what's going on in it. Please use us. Okay, let's start with question 1. It's for 35 marks. I'm not going to give you the answer, but I'm going to guide you guys. So the first question, 1.1, using your own words, in other words, paraphrasing. As far as possible, explain the doctrine of stare decisis. Okay, I'm going to explain to you what the doctrine is. All the courts on the same level and below must follow a ruling. Okay, so I explained to you guys the Makwanyane case where Mr. Makwanyane murdered someone. He was found guilty, okay, in the High Court, and he was sentenced to get the death penalty. So it's this part of his sentence that he appealed against, and went all the way to the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court said that everyone has the right to life, and therefore the death penalty may not be handed down to anyone else ever again for murder. Okay, so that means that stare decisis, all the courts on the same level, well, the Constitutional Court, and below must follow the same ruling. So every time there's a murder case in the Supreme Court of Appeal, in all of the high courts, from here until Joburg and Cape Town and Durban, everyone must follow the same ruling. Every time you have a murder case or anything where the death penalty was prescribed for before. Okay, not allowed to prescribe it anymore. That's the stare decisis principle. But you guys will see it's for 5 marks. So go in your textbook, look under Learning Unit 1, in other words, in Chapter 1. It's at the end of Chapter 1 and explains to you stare decisis. Okay. You're more than welcome to use my notes, but be careful, everyone. All of the campuses are using my slides because I am the guru. Okay, so everyone's going to use very similar words, but do not right-hand click and translate, Google Translate words so that I have no cooking clue what you're talking about. Still keep the idea of on the same level and down must follow the same changed ruling. Okay. But in this answer, because it's 5 marks, I suggest that you guys say that something in the line of a judge is not allowed to create law, but there are certain situations, so list the situations, where a judge has no other choice but to change law. Okay, and then you explain the stare decisis principle. Okay, you'll also see that there's a paragraph in your textbook about interpretation of statutes. I don't know what's in the memo, so I'm just making a suggestion. If you want to write a short note about if you interpret statutes and how that works when you have to trickle down a new ruling, you're more than welcome to include that. Okay, the next one, 1.2. In as simple terms as possible, explain the difference between authoritative and persuasive sources of law. Okay. Yesterday, there was a student in my other session that asked how to answer this, and then also should she give examples. So here I see specifically, it says no marks will be awarded for providing examples for each. Okay, so authoritative and persuasive, you guys will find in your Learning Unit 1 also. Okay, so you have 2 classes of sources. So a source is if you are a presiding officer and you have to find an answer, or if you are presenting a case, where are you going to do research? So there are 6 sources in our South African realm. Okay, the first one is legislation. Be careful, an example in your textbook is the Constitution. Okay, so we have legislation, and then we have case law, and we have customs and all the authorities and textbooks and all of that. Okay, so write down each one of those. Okay, but explain them if you want to explain what you think is authoritative and persuasive. So authoritative means a court or someone has to or must look at these sources. Okay, so what they're trying to say is you cannot get a mark for if you list legislation and case law and customs. You're not going to get 3 out of 6 marks and then 3 out of 6 marks if you list persuasive. I need to see that you know authoritative is you must look at it, and persuasive means you may look at it. Okay. Next one, 1.3. Most nations today follow 1 or 2 major legal traditions. common or civil law? First question, so 1.3.1. Which legal tradition does South Africa follow? Justify your answer. Okay, this is again in Learning Unit 1, but you guys can go and look on BC Learn. Remember, I warned you that they know that students are not going onto BC Learn. So this you won't find in the textbook. You'll find it on BC Learn. And also in Learning Unit 1's slides, and then also in that recording. Okay. So we have a common law and we have a civil law system. You guys can take those two definitions that I placed for you, but then student translate it. Don't Google Translate. Student translate it into your own understanding what they are. And then you say which one South Africa follows. Okay. Next one. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just gave you the answer to the next one as well. You have to compare the civil and the common law system. So the first question is, which one does South Africa follow? In the notes. Okay. And then the next question for 6 marks says, compare the two systems with each other. Okay. BC Learn. 1.4. In as simple terms as possible, in other words, you have to paraphrase, explain the difference between the limited jurisdiction of the Match Court compared with the regional jurisdiction of the High Court. Okay, for 6 marks. So you can answer it in so many different ways. You can first find the definition of limited jurisdiction and write that down. And then what is regional jurisdiction and write that down. And then you can say what is the Match Court jurisdiction and what is the High Court jurisdiction. Okay, you can do it like that. Or you can directly answer the limit jurisdiction of the Match Court and the regional jurisdiction of the High Court. Either, you're going to get 3 marks for each. But be careful, they'll ask you, explain the difference. Okay, so you have to say the one does this and the other one does not do this, because you have to explain the difference between the two. Okay. 1.5 is the last question in question 1. Explain how the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of Appeal differs from that of the Constitutional Court. Okay, so remember the Constitutional Court is the highest court in South Africa. It is the court to which you take anything that you want to interpret, explain, or change anything in the Constitution. Okay. Then in the Supreme Court of Appeal, it is to where all the high courts can then appeal to. You can also appeal directly from a high court to the Constitutional Court if it is something about interpreting, explaining, and applying the Constitution specifically. Otherwise, you stay in the high courts and the Supreme Court of Appeal. It's also in the notes. It's also in your textbook, guys. It's easy enough to see it, but you need to tell me both courts' jurisdiction. So you have to tell me about the Constitutional Court's jurisdiction and compare that with the Supreme Court of Appeal's jurisdiction. You cannot just write down the one, as you're going to get half of your marks. You have to write down 2 because they're asking you 2 courts' jurisdiction. Okay, so that is that question 1. Question 2 for 10 marks. So this falls under Learning Unit 2, and this Learning Unit 2 is about the law of obligations. Just to quickly explain to you what that means, to recap. If you walk past someone in the road, there's possibly no reason that you would want to talk to them. You look at them, they look nice and pretty, and then you just go on with your life. Okay. Except for 3 reasons. If you want to conclude a contract with them, if there's a delict, or if it's unjustified enrichment. Okay. So a contract is, in Learning Unit 3, we start with that. Okay. Capacity, consensus, all those elements. Okay. A delict is if you walk past that person and you kick their dog, or you drive into someone else's car, which is the scenario in question 2, then you cause a delict. Okay, and unjust enrichment is, for example, if you're a student and your bursary pays out 10 times more than what you're supposed to get, or if you see that your gym is not deducting the subscription fee, a membership fee every month. Okay, that's unjust enrichment. So question 2 is about creating rights and duties in terms of a delict. So delict is if someone causes damage to either your personality or your property. And in this scenario, it is about your property. Okay, so more or less, Janice is driving in a car and she's on her phone, she's WhatsApping and she's busy with the radio as well, and then she slams into Paul's car in front of him. Okay. There's definitely damage because he then went to the panel beater, yeah, for a quote, and the quote is then for 15,000 bucks. By the way, if this happens to you, if you're in Janice's situation, do not just take the first and only quote that is given to you. Ask for 3 quotes, and then you can negotiate on the cheapest one. You have the right to do that. But anyway, so Janice here takes it that it's only 15,000 bucks. Okay, so the question is then divided into 2.1, 2.2, 3, 4, and 5, and then it gives the elements of this delict. So I cannot give you marks if you write down the element because it's in the question paper. Okay, so you have to now identify what constitutes the elements of a delict in this scenario. So 2.1 for 2 marks, each one is 2 marks. You have to say what is an act in the scenario that they gave. I don't know what's in the memo, so I'm suggesting first out of the textbook or the slides and the notes, okay, or the notes, write down the definition of an act. Okay, so an act in terms of a delict is any willful human conduct. Okay, then you say, in this case, Janice drove her car. Next one, 2.2 is the damages. Next one, number 3 is fault. 4 is causation. You can make a note for yourself somewhere. Causation means there needs to be a link, okay, between the act and the damage. Okay, and then the last one is unlawfulness. So be careful, the order in which they put it here in this question, the numbering, is not exactly the same as is in the textbook, and it's not exactly the same as it is in the slides and the notes. So be careful which one you are answering when. Okay. 2 marks each. Give me the definition and please apply to the question. They need to see that you can find what is unlawfulness. Okay. Unlawfulness is not that she's WhatsApping and she is focusing on her radio. That's not the unlawful part. She's naughty, but she hasn't been caught for that. She drove into someone else's car, so she's damaging someone else's property. That is unlawful. Be careful of that one in unlawfulness, okay? Good. Next one. Question 3 for 15 marks. There's a quote in question 3.1. Although a contract is an agreement, not all agreements are contracts and not all agreements create obligations. And you can find this quote in your textbook. Yeah. For 5 marks. Using your own words as far as possible, explain when an agreement will constitute a legally binding contract as opposed to any other type of agreement such as a social agreement. There are 2 questions in this question. First, you have to explain what do you need for a valid contract. So after that comma, explain when an agreement will constitute a legally binding contract. That's the first part of the question. Second part is, as opposed to any other type of agreement like a social agreement. So you have to explain 2 things to me here, guys. Okay, you have to explain to me the 5 requirements or list the 5 requirements for a valid contract. And this is in Learning Unit 3. This is on a list, and I just posted Learning Unit 3 for you guys on BUSL Learn while we were quickly in this break. Okay? 5 elements. You need consensus, what we're busy with in Learning Unit 4, capacity, legal possibility, physical possibility, and formalities. Okay, you need those for the first part of this question. Then the second part of the question is about social agreements. Okay, and social agreements is also known as gentlemen's agreements. It's also in your textbooks, also on the slides. Okay, please answer both parts of this question. Question 3.2 is also in Learning Unit 3. Consider each of the following scenarios and identify which requirement for the formation of a valid contract will be of importance to each scenario. Okay, easy enough. There are 5 questions and it's your last question. For 10 marks, so it's 2 marks each. You will find this in Learning Unit 3. They are asking questions which is then dealt with in Learning Unit 4, 5, 6, and 7. But don't freak out because Learning Unit 3 summarizes all of these for you. Okay, so let's quickly look at them. All that you have to state is if this is about consensus, is it about capacity, physical possibility, legal possibility, or formalities. That's what you have to do. For 2 marks, I would suggest, like I keep on saying, I don't know what's in the memo. I would suggest that if you say it is legal possibility, just give the definition as well. Okay, don't know what's in the memo. Okay, so first one, Klaus sells his car to Tommy for $225,000. When Klaus entered into the contract, he was taking very strong antibiotics, happy clappy pillies, prescribed by his doctor, of course. One of the side effects that Klaus was experiencing when he entered into the contract was complete disorientation. He was confused. The day after Klaus entered into this contract, he is surprised when Tommy calls on him to collect the car, as Klaus has no cooking clue or recollection of the contract that he entered into with Tommy. Okay, we still have to do this learning unit. It is Learning Unit 5 and it's about capacity to conclude contracts. So I'm briefly going to explain to you guys what capacity means. Okay, so you first have consensus and then you have capacity. The second element for a valid contract. Okay, capacity means that you must understand what law allows you to do. So if you are so drunk, law can impossibly tell you, yes, it's okay to go and conclude a contract because your mind doesn't understand what you're doing. Okay, if you conclude a contract, you must know that you are concluding a contract and the consequences is that you need to deliver something. Okay, so you can look at Learning Unit 5 if you want to. And in other words, it's chapter 5 in your textbook, and you can read around if you are under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Next one, question 3.2.2. Lance enters into a contract of sale with Dan for 5 grams of cocaine. There's a spelling error here. Okay, so Lance enters into a contract of sale with Dan for 5 grams of cocaine. Students, these contracts are not legal. Okay, even though you do hand over money and you do receive something, these agreements at the moment when you conclude them are not legal. So you can look under Learning Unit 6, in other words chapter 6, under legal possibility. I can tell you now that it's an illegal contract. Okay, just a side note, even though Dubi or Dacha is legal now, and as long as you have someone that lives with you, you are allowed to have kilos and kilos and kilos, whatever the court case said. I haven't read it yet, unfortunately. You are not allowed to have this substance on your person on campus or in your system in campus. Okay, just a fair warning there. Okay, anyway, for this question, go and look at Legal Possibility Learning Unit 6. It's chapter 6 of your textbook. Next one, 3.2.3. Cheryl enters into a contract of sale with Dale for a second-hand car. Everything still sounds legit. Dale believes that they are entering into a lease agreement. So, this is consensus. This person thinks sale. This one thinks rent. Okay. Ooh, I don't know how I have to keep my hands now. Rent, sale, or whatever. Okay. One thinks sale, the other one thinks rent. Which contract are we going to execute? Not one of them, because both of them have different things that comes out of law. They have sale ownership goes over, rent ownership does not go over. Okay, so this person here only becomes the possessor, this person becomes the owner. Two different minds here, so there's no consensus here, the minds are not meeting. Okay, so the problem here is about consensus, and it's this learning unit 4 that we are talking about. Okay, that's consensus. Last one is, no, second last one. Okay, Jamie threatens to kill Michael if he does not sign an agreement selling his vintage car collection to her. Okay, so if you threaten someone, if you do not sign this agreement, I will kill you. So now she signs it. The whole point is there is an agreement. We still have to do this in Learning Unit 4 under consensus. If someone puts a gun against your head, if someone blackmails you, if someone says they're going to withhold something from you, if someone lies to you, those three, misrepresentation, duress, and undue influence, falls under consensus. You guys can go and read the last parts of chapter 4, okay? And you can look at either duress or undue influence, okay? But for this purposes, falls under consensus. Someone is forcing you to conclude a contract. So there is consensus, there is offer, there is acceptance. It is there, but the offerer holds a gun against your head, or the offerer lies, okay? And because of this nastiness, you get acceptance. So we say the phrase that we use there is improperly obtained consensus. You still have to do that. I'm going to do it when I see you guys again, but I know some of you are wanting to work on your test. Okay, then last one, guys. Last 2 marks. Lerato is 17, is a qualified hairdresser. Okay. If you're 18, you have complete and full capacity to conclude contracts. But this girl, 17. The parents help her to set up a small hair salon in the cottage on their property. Lerato enters into a contract with Beauty Hair Care in terms of which she buys hair care products. She does so without the assistance of her parents. So let me quickly explain this to you. Incapacity in Learning Unit 5. The things that has an influence on your permission in terms of law to conclude a contract. The first one we're going to talk about is age. So if you are between the age of 0 to 7, you have no capacity to conclude contracts. Okay? If you are between the age of 7 right before 18, you have limited capacity to act. And 18 and above, you have full and complete capacity. Okay? So Lerato here falls in the middle one, which is you have limited capacity to act. Limited as in you are allowed to conclude contracts if your parent or guardian assists you. And here in this scenario, they say that she is not assisted by her parents, but wait, there's a catch. It's called emancipation. Okay, if you are emancipated, then you can still conclude contracts without assistance, but there's a catch. And you need to prove, and the catch is that you need to prove that you're economically independent from your parents, and that your parents know that you're economically independent and you're going on with your life. So please, for this question, go and read about emancipation under Learning Unit 5. Okay, and then you guys can then, on your own, determine if she can conclude this contract or not. Okay. Good. That was it. 60 marks. Easy peasy. You guys will see the questions are so short, and the answers are so short. 60 marks is going to go like this for you. Okay. So let's quickly talk about referencing. Guys, for this subject, you must reference with a footnote. Do not freak out. So most of you are sitting in front of your computers at this moment. Okay. If you're not, just make a note. On your keyboard, so I'm going to illustrate to you. Let me quickly see if I have a Word document open. going to show a Word document for you guys. Let's do this lesson plan. Okay, I'm busy with lesson plan for Learning Unit 8. Okay. So this is a normal Word document. If I want to put now a reference here, so I click with my mouse after the word that I want to reference. Please do not put it right here at the beginning of a sentence. That's not where it's supposed to be. And also not here where there is a heading, because it means that you're only referencing that heading. You're not referencing the content under that heading. So some students think if they write here question 1 with a footnote, then everything in question 1 is supposed to be, you know, caught in the net of that footnote. It's not how it works. You're supposed to, where you now write a sentence, because you got this answer out of the textbook, okay? You put your mouse or your cursor there, you know, you see that little thingy that's flicking, okay? So you put it right there. On your keyboard, you press Control, Alt, F. Automatically, your computer is going to go down at the bottom of that page and make that little number 1. So I hope you guys can see that little number 1 on the screen that I just shared with you. And there you type, you got it in, what is it, Schulze, on page 23. Okay. If you want to go back into the body where you made the number 1, you just double click in the footnote, double click, and then it takes you back. If you want to do it quickly. Otherwise, you can just scroll up and go up again. Okay. Then again, let's do another one. So I want to, after the word duties, I put my cursor there, Control, Alt, F, all of them together, and your computer automatically makes the next number. And then you type whatever you want to type in there, and then you can either go back and type on whatever you want to do, or you can double click on this little number 2 at the bottom, and then it takes you back into the body where it is. Okay, so that's how you create a footnote. There is somewhere here in the instruction bar at the top also, insert footnote. So you go to insert at the top, and somewhere there's a footnote. Anyway, if some of you know this technique, you can do this way. Otherwise, you can go and look YouTube videos if you want. But this way that I'm showing you now is the longer way. Control Alt F makes a footnote, does the numbering for you, and you can go back immediately. So here's the catch also about referencing. As soon as you get an answer out of a textbook, reference it. Because if you do your whole assignment and then you do your footnotes, then you have to go back and read where you got your answer. So you're doing your work twice. Don't do that. So let's quickly go into detail what your referencing should look like. So I will attach or post the referencing guide for you guys as well. So otherwise you have to download it from the library, okay? You guys will see that every time that you mention something the first time, you have to type it out completely. So you will write Schulze, what's his surname or name? Heinrich. H, and then there's a comma, and then I think it's Kalbrick, Roshna. Okay, wara. And then you write out the general principles, blah, 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 and the place and the year and that type of stuff, okay? Then in brackets, and you only do this the first time you use a source, you will say Schulze et al. And then the page. Then every time afterwards, when you use the same source, you can copy and paste this, what you wrote in the brackets. Ugh. And then page 34. So after you guys, I know that you're going to do this. You copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Okay. And then just change the page number where in the textbook you got the answer from. Okay, that's the one thing. So the first time that you use a source, you have to write it out completely, write it in brackets the first time, and then afterwards, every time you use that source, but just a different page number, you copy and paste the source. Et al. Means and others, okay? So Schulze et al., page 23. Schulze et al., page 28. Schulze et al. And you can also repeat it. You know, if you're discussing one thing in a whole paragraph, like this whole paragraph here at the top, you get from the same page, you can say Schulze et al. Page 23. Schulze et al. Page 23. Okay. You are more than welcome to copy and paste it. But here's the other catch, or the nice thing. If you wrote it out once, the first time completely, in your bibliography on the last page, you copy and paste the first time this number 1 that I showed you guys here, the footnote, copy it, paste it in the bibliography, and then you're done. There's your bibliography. So every time that you list or use a source the first time, take that out of your footnotes, copy and paste in your bibliography, and you're good to go. Okay. It's so easy that I cannot understand why students do not reference. And they don't reference enough. If a student reference one reference on one page, I am going to give you comments about it. And they're not going to be very, very nice, because your other colleagues in your class are going to give me footnotes. Okay, I'm also going to include a one-page example for you guys to show you how many more or less you must have on one page. Obviously, it depends on how many answers you have on that one page. Okay, for example, in this question 2, just make sure. In this question 2, the one about the dialect, okay, and you only have to have explained those 5 elements of a dialect by applying these elements to the question, okay. If you do it on one page, you're going to have 5 footnotes. Okay, for example, tell me where you got the answer for that one. So I will post the referencing guide now for you guys, the law referencing guide, and I will paste a snippet out of one pager to show you guys what it should look like if you answer business law. Good. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. If you guys have questions, I see there's one in the chat. You can find the insert footnote in the reference tab. Thank you so much, Khanya. So it's in the reference tab. Let me quickly share this with you guys. You say it's in the no. Okay. References at the top, and then you say, there, insert footnote. Okay, so you click on it there, and then it will help you to insert a footnote. Or Control Alt F, Control Alt F, Control Alt F, and you just wara the whole page through. Okay, thank you for that, guys. Khanya, you gave me the answer there. If you guys don't have any other questions, I am then finished for today. This recording I'm going to name discussing the test and also referencing. Okay. Questions? Otherwise, you guys can log out, and thanks for attending. Okay. See you when I see you again.